What I want to discuss on today is post traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD is what it's called. Um, I was diagnosed with PTSD after the death of my son, and I've come to find out that the PTSD can be attributed to many other aspects of our lives when it comes to dealing how we deal with traumas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Miss Rogers. I'm going to have her to discuss what the actual diagnosis is and how um, it can be relevant to individuals. I suffered a traumatic loss, but it can go with any other type of trauma. So go ahead, Miss
Mhm.
Rogers.
So PTSD is typically a diagnosis that is given to individuals that have experienced a very traumatic event. A lot of times they used to always get diagnosed with individuals that fought in the military or went to
Mm-hmm.
war. As time has grown and moved forward, they're beginning to recognize that individuals that are outside of war experiences or outside of military are experiencing and having symptoms of post traumatic stress disorders. Now, some of the
Mm-hmm.
symptoms that can be associated with PTSD oftentimes is an individual having to either witness an
Mm-hmm.
traumatic event or experience, or they have either went through a traumatic experience, or even if they've heard. So like if you're hearing about a family member that was murdered, or you heard about a family member that was in a car accident, a very traumatic car accident, or even hearing about a different type of abuse and neglect. Those can all be different type of events that individuals can either witness, experience themselves, or experience from someone else. Now, some of the other additional symptoms that will also be associated with post-traumatic stress disorder are recurrent memories of the event. So you'll sometimes be sitting down or at the grocery store or hang out with friends, and a certain memory will remind you of that event or remind you of your loved one. That can all be associated with post traumatic stress disorder. Also, recurrent dreams, those
Mm-hmm.
can be another sign that, this is something that has been very traumatizing to me. Some other symptoms that can be associated with post traumatic stress disorder are difficulty sleeping. Um, what are some other ones? And we have the DSM-5 right here. So I'm a big advocate of when you are in need of being able to recognize the different symptoms, it's best to utilize the actual DSM. Now, mind you, this is a later edition, so I do want to highlight and make sure that we do recognize that. The newest one is the TR, is the text revised one. So some of the symptoms that are listed in the DSM 5 TR may not be stated here.
Now, so
Uh,
that's a book that you professionals shall use when
yes, this
going
is
through a
the DSM
diagnosis.
5 is our diagnostic manual that we utilize to be able to determine like what are the symptoms that our client is presenting with, or what are the different symptoms that they are experiencing. Some other symptoms that may be aligned with post-traumatic stress disorder is the persistent avoidance of stimuli. So like, if for instance, if you had a car accident in a particular location, you may find yourself doing different routes or different
Mm.
finding different ways to avoid facing or going to that specific um, place where the event had taken place. And then also in regard to like in particular with my mom, her my brother was murdered, and so being able to drive down a particular street where my brother was murdered could bring up that
Mm-hmm.
that fear that is oftentimes associated with post traumatic stress disorder. Negative alterations in your mood can also that are associated with a traumatic event. So, inability to remember important aspects of it. So
Wow.
that challenge with trying to remember like certain events, or there may be times where you are trying to talk to someone about the event and you are forgetting that certain things happened and occurred. All are
Hmm.
symptoms and can be associated with it, or even um, persistent and exaggerated negative beliefs like I'm bad, I can't trust anybody. Like if you've been robbed, you walking down the street and got robbed by someone, you may have difficulty with being able to trust people as you see them walking
Hmm.
down the street.
Okay.
Um, um, there's a lot of other symptoms that can be associated with it. Sometimes there are instances where individuals can have like dissociative symptoms, and dissociative symptoms pretty much highlight having that out of body experience where you're feeling as if like you're up on the ceiling looking down at yourself. That's what a lot of
Mm.
clients often characterize, or they oftentimes say that they experience when they are having these symptoms of dissociation that can come about and um, occur when they're experiencing a post traumatic stress disorder. Um, and do note that when you have children that are 6 years and younger, their symptoms may present differently.
Mm.
Sometimes it could be a lot of somatic issues, like babies may say, like, "Oh, my tummy hurts," or "Oh, my head hurts." Those
Mm.
can all be signs of trauma that has occurred in an individual's life. So, as I stated, definitely, I don't want to go and read line for line. If you are interested, we sometimes love to use Google, and Google is a
Mhm.
wonderful tool
Tool.
that is available and accessible for us. And I'm so thankful for it because I often find myself utilizing it as well. But when you are really trying to look into or trying to understand more about your individual symptoms, it is best to utilize the DSM. And also, I would highly encourage individuals to talk to a professional so that they are able to make sure that their symptoms are more so aligned with post traumatic stress disorder and not other disorders where you may have like depression or anxiety. Those symptoms can also be really, really aligned with some of the symptoms that you experience
Hmm.
when you are diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder. So definitely make sure that you seek out a professional to kind of have that formal and final diagnosis.
Thank you so much, Miss Rogers, for that insight.